we did have an interesting show map, which we're going to try to get to all of it today. But if you have been watching the news, we can't help but talk about assassination attempt number 3 on the president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. We'll talk about it, and I don't want to get too far into the speculation just yet, but I do want to parse a fracture in the society that is getting deeper fast, and it is going to mean the end of America as we know it if we do not sort it out. We're going to talk a little bit about the history of America, some Nikki Knows Facts. We got some shenanigans with Steve. We're going to talk about the record departure, hopefully, of SAS members from the military in Australia and the UK and why that's happening. And it is in some ways tied to the same fracture that we see affecting or corrupting our society to the point where our president is being preyed upon by the populace, by a certain membership of the populace. Of course, we'll get to a song review if we can, and of course, the screw tape letter. So, Jonathan Fiala for Further Every Day, Sitting Chair Philosophy to my right, as was just introduced a moment ago. Miss Nikki, how are you?
I am very good. It's a good day. It's a good day to have a good day.
It's a good day to have a good day. Hey, you know what? Our president is alive. As far as I know, there was one injury. No one's dead. That's a good thing.
Right.
That's a good day. To our left, Charlie, how's it going?
It is going well. I'm glad to be here.
Likewise, glad to have you. Steve?
Yes, doing very well today and in the mood to be politically incorrect.
Well, we expect nothing less from you, Steve. And if you don't,
Thank you.
well, I don't know what show you're watching. And then, of course, Ryan, how's it going?
I'm doing good. How's everyone on the panel today?
Doing well.
Wonderbar.
Glad to have you there producing. So just a real quick recap. If you have not seen this, we would be A, surprised, but B, negligent to not show it. This is the White House Correspondents' Dinner that happened last night, or rather didn't happen last night. It was preempted by this occurrence. Everything looks normal. Now multiple shots ring out. People are diving for cover. You can see the Secret Service grabbing the president and the First Lady, and then eventually members of the cabinet. I love the music still going in the background.
Yeah.
That's finally cut it. So let's take a look at what was happening on the outside. Thank you, Mr. Producer. Next cut. Go ahead and go to the next one. This is what was happening on the outside. Look at that. Right past the metal detectors.
Hello. Your mic is still open. It is still open. It is still open.
Uh-oh. So we still have someone there. But all of that to say, very, very concerning that this fellow was able to get through. But you also notice he wasn't able to get close. He was able to get close enough for there to be a ruckus, but not close enough to actually do any serious damage to the intended target. Praise God, no collateral damage other than one officer, I believe, were injured in the ensuing gunshots. So,
Was it from the gunshots or was it just in the activity of trying to move around? Do we not know?
What I read
Yep.
was that the officer was shot.
Okay.
In the struggle for the gun and the struggle to put him down and subdue him. That's what I read.
That's
And so
what I had heard.
this is only a few hours. Like we're only 18 hours after.
Yes.
There's a lot of details that I had a hard time finding on short notice and pulling them all together. And there's a lot of misinformation. And I want to go over the misinformation or potential misinformation. There's a lot of questions that people have, and I think that they are worth asking. I would be very, very cautious about asserting, and we're going to go over some of that. But one thing is for sure, this was not unexpected in the sense of they literally asked for this. Next cut, Mr. Producer. They literally asked for this. Over 250 journalists, this is courtesy of the Gateway Pundit, signed letter demanding forceful protest against Trump at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Okay. More than 250 journalists signed letter demanding forceful protest. You know, if you tell the populace that the president is literally Hitler over and over and over again, this is not surprising. This is not surprising on its face. I'm not even going to address the potential conspiracies of programming or any of that. Just on its face, you say that you're literally living in 1938 Germany, and the despot is trying to genocide people. And you're going to see where I'm going with that in a moment. This is natural performance from a human population. This is what you would expect to see.
And you know what's really interesting about all this? The very comparison to Hitler shows how much they are in tune with Hitler themselves, because what was it that Hitler said? If you tell a lie long enough and loud enough, they will eventually believe it.
Can I say?
And I think that's what we're seeing in real time.
Yeah.
In building on what you were just saying there, is I'm very surprised to see the people that buy the lies, no king protest on a president that was elected. And you go out to these protests and you ask questions and they're totally clueless. And it's really scary to see that we have a large number of people that are easily swayed without facts foundation. And you can see that through history. And I just want to go back to Germany. You know, in Germany, you saw a small portion that saw what Hitler was and had voiced out against him. But you know, a lot of the people in Germany did not even understand how bad Hitler was until 10 years after the war.
Until we were already past that.
Yeah, it was not because the information didn't travel as fast back then. But until they were confronted with the pictures at the concentration camps and came to full knowledge of what was really happening, those people did not know how bad Hitler was.
It's the frog in the pot issue.
Yes.
They just one little thing at a time, one little loss of freedom, one little loss of safety at a time. And I want to address, if you're one of our regular listeners, thank you for hundreds of thousands of downloads on iTunes, Apple, Google, Spotify. Thank you. Also on YouTube and Rumble, you can find us at Further Every Day. Thank you guys for being there. You can also participate live on Sundays, 1 to 3 Central Standard Time on PSB's channel on Rumble or Vaughn.live. So, and I want to actually respond to a couple of notes. Someone asked, this is Based Army, where were all the waiters and waitresses just before this? Actually, if you watch some of the other footage, you will see many hosts serving, and they'll actually come in waves. That is a good question. I don't think it means foul play, because I actually did see plenty of them in other footage. I didn't want to go over every piece because we're not necessarily a detective channel, more of a apologetics channel. But I did see that.
But the other
question is, where's the security? You're looking at them running right through the checkpoint.
Yep.
One of the things that they don't tell you is they do have X-ray and microwave technology usually set up. They are small antennas, or they look like a Bose sound system. They're only a little bit bigger, a little bit chunkier than those little micro towers. And you walking through, they can see and detect the item. And that's why the guy ran, because he was probably expecting some sort of interdiction, some sort of detection, and he ran through.
Well,
this is why I actually do agree with the podcast class who wants to say, maybe we should have a White House ballroom with better security for these functions. Everyone's saying this is a conspiracy, that Trump did this just to push the White House ballroom, and that the Jews are involved because they can sell a underground bunker cellar for the White House and they're making a bid. Guys, let's not get ahead of our skis here. This is it's not that deep. It's really simple. There's a White House Correspondents' Dinner. The guy ran through security as fast as he could. Security ultimately stopped him. Not great.
You know, the types of systems that they're starting to use now aren't necessarily an X-ray type. They're a type
Microwave.
where it recognizes weapons.
Based Amy. I'm sorry, Based Amy.
I was going to correct you.
And they use them now for a lot of churches are using them now.
Yeah.
And they had them displayed at a seminar, the security seminar that I'd gone to.
So they'll actually no longer show the image because you actually have every detail shown, but they will ping out specifically a firearm or a weapon. Based Amy, I have chronic migraines. It's not an excuse, it's an explanation. Sometimes I have to guess what I'm reading because everything is...
We're working on small screens here.
Swirling and moving. So actually, I do apologize. Sometimes my reading is a little bit off. It's because I'm having to guesstimate on the fly. So thank you for your patience.
But I got to go to...
Go.
Where did he go?
You got to have it ready.
Line. Oh, Motor On. Today confuses me, tomorrow confounds myself. I love that. I'm using that.
Today confuses me.
Yeah, today confounds me.
Okay.
I love it. I love it. That's a good line.
And then the other question on why was the CCTV footage so bad? It was someone using their own phone. They did not have access to the hard drive, but they were filming what they were playing back. So all interesting. Be careful what you put out right now because really we need to be sources of truth.
One quick thing on the waiters and waitresses. You and I were just doing a show the other night.
Yep.
And
with bomb dogs and everything.
They do go in waves. They all disappear in there for a minute, and then they're all marching right out.
That's normal.
That doesn't get me there.
That's normal. What's abnormal is the response to this. So next cut, Mr. Producer. This is what we're seeing online. And so people are losing their minds. You're seeing, we almost got free. Go ahead and put it up, Mr. Producer. Go ahead. Thank you. We almost got hashtag free beer day. This is the Minnequaw Brewing Company. Either a brother or sister in the resistance needs to work on their marksmanship, or he faked another assassination to get positive news cycle.
Faked another.
Faked another. We'll never know. Regardless, we stand ready to pour free beer the day it happens. That is a federal crime, sir.
And I hope you get. I hope
you get prosecuted.
Yeah.
So do I.
I hope you get prosecuted because that is a federal crime. You are inciting. You are saying, I will give you something if you kill someone else. That is the equivalent of a bounty.
They're coming for you. I promise. They seen it. They're coming.
They better, because every person who says stuff like that, you have unlimited free speech. Let me be really clear. You have unlimited free speech. Your free speech is not free from the consequences of what that free speech does. Let me explain.
You can't yell fire in a crowded theater.
You yell fire, cry in a crowd, and you yell fire. Thank you. Blah, blah, blah. I'm tired. I worked till 4 a.m. a couple of days this week. I am exhausted. Had 4 hours of sleep. So no, you yell fire in a crowded theater, and yes, you have the freedom to say fire. But what did you also do, Mr. Producer?
You put everyone in a panic.
You intentionally called everyone to run out of the theater at the same time. In effect, you started a panicked stampede with your action. Your words, you have the freedom to say fire in a crowded theater. If you yell fire, it's different because you are attempting to weigh out an outcome. Free beer. You can say free beer. If you say that, free beer for murdering the president of the United States.
That's a problem.
That is a bounty. That is a fatwa. That is a call to action.
There was a young girl on, YouTube, Facebook, and she was saying that if she ever saw some of the Trump administration, she said, I will shoot you. I will have a gun. You know, and well, she does regret it now.
Mm-hmm.
You can't say things like
This is the result of many years of being able to speak what we want without consequences
well, yes.
at the right
Well-
moment. And that's been under your Democratic presidents. That has been under
Yeah.
the Obamas. That has been under the Bidens. And I will say this, maybe not to the degree, but even under the Clintons. And Hillary Clinton took it to another level when she got to be Secretary of State. She did the same kind of stuff. And she does it today. No prosecution for these kind of things.
Correct. So, and so someone in the comments, Good Vibes 17 says, very true. I'm not impressed with those in charge of security.
Me either.
Here's the thing. Security is a balance of friction to cohesive experience for the guests. At the end of the day, you need to be able to let people in. It cannot be Fort Knox. So you have to figure out how to interdict it earlier. And there's an elegance to that, yes, I agree with you. It was not done correctly. The other fact of the matter is, having worked producing and building live events for 20 years, I know how easy it is to get into one of these things. It is not hard. It is not hard. Thank God that most people who do this kind of crap are not intelligent enough to bypass, because it's actually not that hard. And you should be more concerned. Charlie Kirk, prime case study of that.
Yes.
We should be more concerned, and we need to start leveling up. It's not enough to just be able to interdict the guy. We want him to be further out. I'm actually pleased with the response. I give it a B-.
I'd have to say the Charlie Kirk
I give Charlie
situation
that's an F.
was a different type of situation as far as setting up security is, and compared to a closed off room.
Oh, I totally
His
agree.
was a open air situation, which is
I don't know why they
kind
didn't
of hard to.
They
do
should have had
security.
drone. They should have had drone-based security. They should have had.
They should have
very
had drones
inexpensive.
flying around. I mean,
Butler, Pennsylvania.
depending on the security teams that they had there.
There's something rotten about Butler, and
Yes.
we've never heard
I agree.
everything. I want all of that released as soon as possible, but I'm sure the president has a personal stake and will therefore hopefully get to the bottom
that
of
out.
it. But I give this a B-. Someone is injured but not dead, and they stopped them long before they got into the room.
Yes, but if you'll notice at the beginning of that thing, those two security guards weren't even looking down the.
I know
They weren't
it's
looking,
easy.
and
Everybody, when they showed, had their back turned
the
to
guy waited.
to that entrance, and
He
at
waited for the right time.
minimum of half of the people should have been facing the other way.
Yeah.
So all of that commentary aside, we can talk about it all day, and we're all in agreement.
And
it was okay. It was okay. It was effective. It could have been more. The guy actually did probably the smartest thing for a low tech is just a brute force run. And he actually got closer than any of us would have liked. Now, go back to that same cut, Mr. Producer. We're seeing this on Reddit and Blue Sky, staged. Yep, to distract and rally. Use it to further stop elections. Needs a distraction from the Iran war situation that's not effectively distracting from the Epstein situation, all the while the economy and his approval numbers crash. Next cut, Mr. Producer. I'm calling it now, and call me crazy. I don't care, but this has to be staged. He never wanted to go to this event. He hasn't been to the event since Obama, and he can now say that he, quote unquote, went without the hassle of actually being there all night. Little kids calling in school bomb threats during finals, but like way worse at it. To add on, it's an event where the press were conveniently at. Also, why would a shooter just start shooting in the lobby away from any potential targets? Makes no sense. Pause there, Mr. Producer. This is a key example of internet lawn chair.
Yes.
Quarterbacking.
Security backing, if you will.
Low information.
Low information. Obviously, the gun
Low
went off.
intelligence. You guys are giving way too much credit.
Well, that's exactly. I agree.
And so but that's the problem. This is the electorate in part, and I suspect a lot of this is bots. I
Yes.
suspect that a lot of this is bots because some people really are this stupid. I'm not saying all. Some people really are this stupid, and I think some people really do believe at this level that this is the response that sounds intelligent. It's not. Obviously, the shots rang out when he was interdicted by security. You Neanderthals. Also, you're saying that Trump somehow convinced a lefty who donated to Kamala Harris to come in and attempt and not succeed at assassinating him. This is the problem. We live in a post-truth age.
Yes.
And that's where I want to go.
Yep.
That's where I want to go. You see more of this. Another false flag. His polls are tanking. He needs to garner sympathy, it says. It also gave him a reason to run away from the inevitable jokes. Just keep that one up, Mr. Producer. That was the wrong one. That's okay. So it was so staged, period. Just a distraction from the failing Iran war. What a jerk this guy is. Black flag event like in Butler, PA, where there was a tremendous coordination with local PD, Secret Service, and lowering of the American flag, the shuttling of the press by a Trump campaign member to a photographic hotspot, et cetera, et cetera. Pause, Mr. Producer. I've heard conservatives say that line. People died at Butler. Trump supporters died at Butler. How dare you? How crass. Not how dare you bring forward a rational opinion with thought out observation and explanation. No, you're sitting there with all of the thought of a large fart coming out of your butt. That's the amount of effort that you put in to those words that you typed out on your screen. You might as well be flatulating with the amount of mental effort that you put in. It is simplistic. It is silly. And by the way, conservatives, we do this too. We sometimes just word vomit into the internet. We need to stop. We, as a culture, need to think about what we're saying.
This is why we have idiots that do the things like this shooter did, because we got idiots like this writer, reporter, whatever you want to call this guy, internet influencer, jerk, whatever you want to call him, farter, whatever. But
silly people.
Idiots like him that create the type of situations that are occurring like they are today, like all three of these situations, assassinations, that occurred with Trump.
Because
of stupid people like him.
We've dehumanized. We have not taught people in school, so they are not thinkers. Rhetoric. Did you take rhetoric in high school, Mr. Producer? Logic, rhetoric?
We were taught critical thinking, yeah.
Logic and rhetoric, though. So probably not.
Exactly.
And you were in a good school. You were in a good Christian religious school.
Private Christian school, yes.
So again, mine taught logic and rhetoric. Like we went to the classics. We went to Aristotle, Socrates, Plato. We actually looked and we said,
we did a little bit of that. Yes.
Good.
Yes, we did.
Good. And that's because you were in a religious school. Thankfully, there are some, but critical thinking is out the door.
Yep.
Logic, rhetoric, they're not taught. Critical thinking, they're taught what to think, not how to think. And so unfortunately, people are able to pick up on the dumbest ideas. And it is not good.
We read some like Holocaust books. We read 1984. Yeah.
So I can't read any more of these. What I want to do is I want to skip to cut number 9, Mr. Producer. I'm getting worked up. I want to actually look at what we know about the teacher who did this. And this is a teacher in LA. This is who's training their schools.
I'm sure he's a Trump supporter from California.
So I would say this is actually a very favorable piece for him. And so I want to give him this. Cut number 9, Mr. Producer, go ahead and play it.
Allen developed a prototype for a wheelchair emergency brake.
The wheelchair brakes tend to lock the wheels, but don't actually lock the chair to the ground. The idea with this is to prevent it from moving at all.
So he is actually an intelligent person. Okay. He is an intelligent person. Cole Thomas Allen is an intelligent person who has definitely a sympathy for the disabled, right? He's doing something. He's putting it together. He is actually known and noted as Teacher of the Month. Next cut, Mr. Producer, in his local school. By the way, he's a teacher. Just like this week, if you slept, if you blinked, you might have missed it. The teacher on the right, another lefty, except actually a tranny, arrested in Loudoun County.
His
after
boyfriend?
No, Steve. No.
Well,
totally different. Totally different. Loudoun County, Virginia. I'm getting there. Loudoun County, Virginia. You're right for the assumption. This guy, you have two. These are your teachers, is my point. These are your teachers. Loudoun County, you have a tranny, Hayden Dollery, 19, who was arrested and charged with threats of bodily injury to basically was threatening to shoot up the school. And you have another teacher who we're told are our greatest heroes. They're the greatest among us. They're the best among us, attempting to shoot up the White House Correspondents' Dinner. What do they have in common? Well, he voted for Kamala Harris, and he donated money to Kamala Harris's campaign.
They're both from California.
Cole Allen. No, they're both Kamala supporters. They're both Democrats. They're both lefties. Because Hayden is in Loudoun County, if you remember, is in Virginia.
That is one of the most liberal places in the nation.
Yeah.
So all of that to say, these are who are training your children. And they come from a whole generation of people who've been training them. And who took over? The German critical thought when we brought them in from Germany in the 1950s and 1960s. Think about that for a moment. That arc, you go from Nazis to the same people with the German critical theory being brought onto America. Americans, so a lot of them, by the way, are, and this is where a lot of the anti-Semitic stuff comes from, a lot of them were Jews fleeing persecution from Germany. And they brought that German critical theory with them, that Marxism.
And what are we bringing in now? Just saying.
Well, we're swapping out for Islam, but that's a different issue.
I'm very surprised that the liberal people in Israel that are against the government, I really don't understand that.
Well, what's
really
amazing, I don't know who did it. This is off topic. I didn't put this in. Whoever's running is like Israel's their national social media channel. They're promoting the largest pride parade and Pride Day in the Dead Sea, which, if you're familiar with your ancient geography, that's the runoff from Sodom and Gomorrah.
Oh dear.
So, like,
do you know
whoever's running the Jewish like social media accounts, like, can you cut like whoever's doing that, because that is the worst stereotype. If you want Christians to like you guys, maybe you should knock that off.
Do you know, and I cannot, forgive me because I cannot bring the scripture up, but I know it's out there, is maybe that, you know what the number one sin was in Sodom and Gomorrah? Was pride.
Yep. Pride, which is amazing.
Pride.
Amazing.
That's why the seed's dead, huh?
What they did and who they were.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think it's the sexuality thing.
Oh, no, it was much further than that.
Well, the sexuality is an unpopular opinion. Homosexuality is not that big of a deal by comparison to pride, because pride is what ultimately grows out homosexuality. Homosexuality is a symptom.
Mm-hmm.
It is a symptom.
But that's not, and I agree with you. What I'm saying is that's not how culture today looks at that.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I think that's key. We look at symptoms as opposed to root causes.
Correct.
Was it C.S. Lewis who said something like pride is the root of sin?
Yes. Pride is the root of sin.
Yep.
So I think people really need to understand,
Satan.
you know, and I get into it with my Catholic friends sometime. We were debating mortal versus venial sins. I'm like, so let's take those two names off. Mortal is something that is, you know, putting you in risk of damnation, and venial is something that is more common. And so I said, here's the thing: homosexuality is not in of itself, like the homosexual act is not in of itself any worse than a lie or adultery or anything else. other than it is multiple sins that have stacked to pervert the natural affections.
I'm going to go a little bit against you. I'm going to push back.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Because you're not listening.
Okay.
If you're pushing back, because I think you and I agree.
I'm sure we do.
To get to the place where a natural affection. So let's talk about a lustful look versus the homosexual act. The lustful look is potentially one. I would argue maybe a few sins actually stacked up. You've allowed it to go in your head. You've allowed it to dwell there. You've built that up. And then you have that lustful look. It's not one sin. It is a history of sin that ends in that one look where you are now imagining yourself doing something that you ought not. Homosexuality is the perversion of a natural desire.
Mm-hmm.
So not only have you had to have those moment by moment sins, I think of it less as a large sin versus a small sin, more in the context of 1 penny, 2 penny, 3 penny, 4,000 more. And you're looking at the after effects, the consequences. It's one more action on a very large stack.
Okay.
So that sin in of itself is not necessarily bad, but it is the consequence of this large history.
What
of
if
sin.
you're getting that lustful look from another guy?
Moving on.
No, what's gonna
that kind of changes.
Are you inferring something, Steve? Here,
not from me.
Going to move on.
No,
I'm gonna
I was just asking.
to the words of the circumstances that it corrects, because I'm not talking just about homosexuality, but sexual sins are sins against your own body, and I think that would go back to the psychological. If a man has multiple women in his life, or a woman has multiple men, there are psychological things
Issues.
that do happen.
And it all stacks up. So and that's why I wanted to say I think you and I agree.
We do.
But what I would say is the individual moment by moment sin. Those are What have I always said, Mr. Producer? All sin is equal in
essence, but not in consequence.
Correct.
And there is a compounding effect of sin. One sin makes you more like a creature of hell. 1,000 sins or a lifetime of sins makes you much more a creature of hell. And it's only by the grace of God that you can die to that creature that you've been breeding in your soul. And so anyway, sadly, the Jews are falling into every negative stereotype right now as a nation. They're literally having a pride party in the remains of Sodom and Gomorrah. Not a good look. Not a good look. I think whoever is doing that needs to cut that out. In fact, you do realize that you're relying on a Christian nation for your existence. Maybe you should, which is going to lead us into the next story quite nicely in just a moment. But I do think that they need to be a little bit more cautious. With that said, now that we kind of covered it, because I think we had to cover that. Do you think we have time to cover the SAS?
Oh, I hope
the UK,
so.
because I actually want to cover the difference between, so we're going to have to move fast, but I think we can. We want to cover the difference between war crimes and the done by the individual versus the nation's, or I should say the king's responsibility to his soldier. And what I think we've lost, right? The head of state, the state has a responsibility to protect those who enact lethal force on behalf of the state. The state also should be liable and not the individual soldier when an overall action is incorrect. Aside from war crimes, we're going to get into it. I want to build a rubric today. I want us to look at this. So this is a story that Charlie brought to us. And what we're seeing, unfortunately, is service members are resigning en masse from the SAS and multiple other services in the UK and Australia. This is going to be cut number 11, Mr. Producer, and then I want to get Charlie's thoughts.
Which happens to be special forces, which is versus
the special the Special Air Service.
Right.
Cut, Mr. Producer.
Britain's most elite Special Forces unit is reportedly facing a growing crisis. A Telegraph report citing sources say that soldiers are resigning in significant numbers amid fears of legal action over alleged human rights abuses during past operations. The report claims that troops from 22 SAS, the United Kingdom's premier Special Forces regiment, they have applied for premature voluntary release. At the heart of the exodus is deep unrest over ongoing war crimes investigations related to operations in Afghanistan, Syria, and Northern Ireland. Soldiers and veterans claim that they are being subjected to what they call witch hunts by human rights lawyers. The controversy comes as the British government, led by Keir Starmer, faces intense scrutiny over military readiness. Well, critics even argue that the UK is underprepared for modern conflicts, pointing to delays in naval deployments and uncertainty over defense spending commitments. Now, a recent memo suggests that more than 240 Special Forces personnel, including active troops, are currently under legal scrutiny, with investigations costing millions of pounds each month. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Defence has defended the legal framework, stating that UK military operations fully comply with both domestic and international laws. With Britain's armed forces already reduced in size, the situation inside its most secretive unit is now becoming a matter of concern.
Thank you, Mr. Producer. The problem is either the actions that they were asked to do are lawful and within international law, or they're not. Now, whose fault is it if you're in some far-flung country from your nation and you were told, move here, defend yourself, extract this person, grab that, shoot that? Whose fault is it if your intel is incorrect, if your cause is unjust?
It's not yours.
It's not the soldiers. I'm sorry. On a macro scale, there are, and we're going to get to the micro, there are micro decisions that are wrong on the part of soldiers. You need to hold officers and enlisted alike accountable for their micro actions.
Mm-hmm.
But this is on the macro scale. This is saying this war was unjust. You killed my husband and such, so I can sue you in international court and sue the officer or the enlisted who did this. Britain should be protecting her soldiers under this.
And
either
she's not.
So America doesn't recognize we don't recognize the international court. Are you saying that Great Britain does?
Great Britain, absolutely. They're breaking, they're chinking, they're doing internal investigations based on an international court.
But doesn't this that they're talking about with special forces, not the regular foot soldiers?
So right now, I don't know the entirety of this because there's only a few stories out on this, and it's a little bit secretive as to what's going on. All I know right now is that the SAS specifically is the one that's seeing this. However, they saw an overall reduction in the armed forces, I believe, of 200,000 in the past year, give or take.
I think you guys are missing the bigger arch here.
I agree, Charlie.
We're focused on international courts, and
the country is not protecting.
That's it. That's
her soldiers.
One. And number two, we only need look back the last 5 years to see what a liberal progressive group will do.
Correct.
And go through just on a presidential level.
Correct.
Now, once that Pandora's box has been opened, and it was kicked wide open.
I agree.
Thank you, Alvin Bragg. Thank you, all you other clowns that got involved. What's going to happen is this is going to go to what Steve talked about.
There is a
so I want you to think about the chilling effect that this would have on your specialized forces in the U.S. We're talking SEAL teams. We're talking Rangers. And need I go on? And it won't stop there. It will come all the way down to a regular foot soldier that is serving. And if you think this is not possible, you underestimate George Soros and his family.
Well, it's even more than just that. So it's okay. I stand corrected. We're looking at a 182,000 and a drop, I believe it is, to 136,000. On a quick note, it is tens of thousands. Okay, it is around 20 something.
But
yeah,
here's the thing: Britain, in Pomeroy opinion here,
they're not ready militarily, and what are they doing? They're gutting themselves from the inside.
And Keir Starmer is the one that is holding the door open to make sure that Britain no longer is a nation
And
in another 25 to 50 years.
And as goes Britain,
So
60,
goes
80 years
That's
later, America tends to go. That
absolutely
happened with
right.
slavery. That happened with us becoming the world hegemon. Like it or not, the American Empire is the empire that is holding the whole world together. And it came from the British Empire. We ultimately got that from the Brits. Guys, we're watching this happen in Britain. We're watching the Islamic invasion in the UK.
And it is an invasion.
Yes.
We're watching the same suicidal empathy happen here that is happening in Great Britain. It's coming, and it is going to gut the fight out of our armed forces.
Oh
It's
man,
not
that's
good.
happening all over Europe.
Correct.
Yes, it
Not
is.
just the UK.
Correct. And it's ultimately what happens when you cut yourself off from God. Speaking of cutting yourself off from God, quite literally, we watched this past week, and I'm going to play the most anti-Israel news outlets' response to this story, and I actually do want to lay it out, and we're going to look at this and piece it apart. If you missed it, this last week is IDF soldiers, 2 of them, decapitated Jesus at a Catholic church. History doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme.
An Israeli soldier who destroyed a statue of Jesus with a sledgehammer and another who photographed the incident have been removed from combat duty and sentenced to 30 days in military detention. Another 6 soldiers who stood by and watched may be reprimanded. The Israeli army was quick to announce the punishment after an uproar over what happened in Debil village in southern Lebanon. In a post on social media, it says a replacement cross has already been installed. But if we look at the picture, the apology will start to look disingenuous. The new cross is Orthodox, and Debil is Maronite Catholic, one of 55 southern Lebanese villages still under Israel's military occupation of the area. Israeli officials were quick to condemn the vandalism, framing it as an isolated incident.
Shall prevail.
Much international support for Israel comes from Christian leaders and communities, especially in the United States.
New Year.
But Israel's army has a history of targeting holy sites and violating international law. During its genocide in Gaza, Israel bombarded hundreds of mosques and all 3 of its churches, among them one of the oldest churches in the world. No one was charged, no one detained. In many cases, the military and members of the public celebrated. These people are cheering in support of 5 Israeli soldiers charged with sexually abusing a Palestinian held in an Israeli military detention facility.
That's suspicious behavior
Charges
there.
were later dropped, even though the assault was captured on video. And the soldiers were allowed to return to active service. When it comes to the Israeli army, it's rarely about the offense. It's about the documentation, and even more precisely, the PR nightmare. Many officials around the world condemned the desecration of the cross. But its attacks against Palestinians do not often spark that level of outrage, even when proof exists.
In Israel, it seems you can escape prosecution for bombing a church, committing a war crime, destroying private property, or assaulting a detainee on camera. But film yourself smashing a cross, and it would appear you will be held accountable.
Thank you, Mr. Producer.
Ibrahim, Al Jazeera.
So I don't agree with everything, all of this lady's priors. And a lot of what she said, I don't agree with. But from Al Jazeera, that's the take. What I will say is good on Netanyahu for actually realizing which side of the toast his butter is on. He's got to understand. He came out and said, wait a minute, there will be a full investigation. These guys will be held accountable. 30 days? That's unfortunate. I think that these guys should have the book thrown at them. I think that they should be drilled out. I think that they should absolutely. And by the way, if those SA allegations are real and it looks really bad for the Jewish defense on that, the only reason, my understanding of that, where you had the 3 soldiers holding up the riot shields and behind there is a Palestinian detainee who's being supposedly, allegedly, assaulted. They released them back to Gaza, so there was no prosecution. That's scummy. Like that should be dealt with. So let's lay out the rubric specifically. Israel, they need to police themselves carefully. They cannot have IDF soldiers beheading Jesus as a social media meme.
Their military court needs to be held more accountable
than anything. Do this. As someone who is about as pro-Israel as can be while still being America first, I am very, very philo-Semitic. I love the Jewish people. I wish them the best. I wish they would cut it out with the gay liberal stuff. I wish they would cut it out with AIPAC here in America. They should be registered agents. I think all of those criticisms are not only valid, but they need to be resolved immediately. Also, these are individual crimes by individual soldiers.
Correct.
Not by the UK and the SAS. The SAS, if you put yourself in a SAS member's shoes. You're sent to Afghanistan, you're sent to Venezuela, to Kuwait, and you do things, you get orders, you carry them out. As you should as a soldier under the authority of your nation. You should not be held to account for the assumption of the enemy that you were wrong. If anyone is to be held to account, it should be the British government. It should be the lawmakers. It should be the king. It should be the parliamentarian who sent you. It should not be the soldier. And I want to build a rubric for how we understand, as opposed to two guys off duty decapitate Christ. 5 guys off duty, or maybe on duty, I don't know. Allegedly, they assault this woman. If that's true, they need to hang. So how do we lay out the difference? How do we understand? That's a good question, Ryan. I'm glad you asked. I want to go to some really intelligent thought from, of all people, Augustine of Hippo. And I believe that he did a great job laying this out in his Contra Faustum. It's a response to the Manichaeism, or the Manichaeism heresy that sprung up. And so it's the Contra Faustum Manichaeum. And we're looking at book 22, section 74 through 75. A lot of mental and philosophical legwork was put in here, and I think it's worth coming to this. So this is what Augustine has to say. The account of the wars of Moses will not excite surprise or abhorrence, for in wars carried on by divine command, he showed not ferocity, but obedience. That's an important distinction. And God, in giving the command, acted not in cruelty, but in righteous retribution, giving to all what they deserved and warning those who needed warning. What is the evil in war? Pause. What he's saying is violence is amoral. God will do violent things. The nation, if it is acting in a just war, is allowed to do violent things because the leader is ordained by God. Specifically, Moses is very much ordained by God. And so he's going to the extreme of Moses and saying, Moses is literally being led by God. If he is wicked, then none of us are righteous. So look at that. Look at that. And he did it in obedience, not in ferocity. There was not a maliciousness. So how do you understand the actions of a jus ad bellum, a just war? Next cut, Mr. Producer. Is it the death of someone who will soon die in any case, that others may live in peaceful subjection? Pause there for a second. This is the next line. What is the evil in war? Is it evil because someone who ultimately, in the grand scheme of eternity, is going to change states from having a physical body to simply being disembodied? Think about it from God's perspective. Your life is very short. Is it evil if someone is put down because they're acting like a dog, or because they're doing something evil? They're preventing peace from reigning. Is that really evil? And Augustine is arguing no.
It's really, it makes you look much deeper at the definition of good and evil.
And he goes on further to say this. Go back to that cut, Mr. Producer. This is mere cowardly dislike, not any religious feeling. The real evils in war are love of violence, revengeful cruelty, fierce and implacable enmity, wild resistance, and the lust of power and such like. And it is generally to punish these things when force is required to inflict the punishment that, in obedience to God or some lawful authority, good men undertake wars, when they find themselves in such a position as regards the conduct of human affairs that right conduct requires them to act or to make others to act in this way. Is he making sense to y'all? He's saying the real evil is of the heart, of what you are imparting. The violence in and of itself is not necessarily evil. I can violently stop a predator from harming a child.
Mm-hmm.
That predator was going to enact violence upon the child. So as a reaction, my amoral reaction is to stop the predator. The question is now, are you acting in accordance with God's law? And I think Augustine lays out a really good case. Otherwise, John, when the soldiers who came to be baptized asked, "What shall we do?" would have replied, John the Baptist specifically, "Throw away your arms, give up the service, neither strike or wound or disable anyone." But knowing that such actions in battle were not murderous, but authorized by law, and that the soldiers did not thus avenge themselves, but defend the public safety, he, John the Baptist, replied, "Do violence to no man, accuse no man falsely, and be content with your wages." Back to the Bible, Augustine goes. Look at what John said to the soldiers who came to him to be baptized. What should we do? He didn't say, become a peaceful hippie and live in your 1960s weed van outside. That's not what he said. That's not what John the Baptist said.
But the Message Bible, I'm kidding.
Yeah, right. So that's not what John said. He said instead, don't do violence to people outside of your, the assumption is outside of your prerogative, your duty, rather, outside of your duty, and accuse no man falsely. Start to do things wisely and do them underneath the authority that was given to you. Luke 3:14. But as the Manichaeans are in the habit of speaking evil of John the Baptist, again, this is an ancient heresy that rose, let them hear the Lord Jesus Christ himself ordering this money to be given to Caesar, which John tells the soldiers to be content with. Give, he says, to Caesar the things that are Caesar's. Matthew 22:21. For tribute money is given on purpose to pay for soldiers of war. So why would Jesus say pay your taxes to go to war if Jesus was a pure pacifist?
Well, the same reason that God's going to bring judgment down upon the earth.
Yeah, he's a holy God. He's
a holy God. And sometimes, though, violent people cannot be reasoned with. I mean, that's just, think about that for just a minute.
Look at the guy who just ran a barricade with knives and a shotgun attempting to shoot at the president of the United States.
That's not reason. That's not reason.
Hey, whoa up there, buddy. Let's have a little talk. Let's have a little talk and see if you can, hey, Squirt, just slow down there. Let's have some reason. That ain't happening.
Mm-hmm.
That guy is on a mission and he is running headfirst to do evil. And just to continue, again, Augustine of Hippo, really good stuff here. And again, in the case of the centurion who said, I'm a man under authority and have soldiers under me. And I say to one, go, and he goes, and another, come, and he comes. And to my servant, do this, and he does it. Christ gave due praise to his faith. In Matthew 8:9-10, he did not tell him to leave the service, but there is no need here to enter into a long discussion of just and unjust ways. A great deal depends on the causes for which men undertake wars and on the authority they have for doing so. For the natural orders which seeks to place the peace of mankind ordains that the monarch should have the power of undertaking war if he thinks it advisable, and that the soldiers should perform their military duties on behalf of peace and safety of their community. When war is undertaken in obedience to God, who would rebuke or humble or crush the pride of man? It must be allowed to be a righteous war, for even the wars which arise from human passion cannot harm the eternal well-being of God, nor even hurt his saints. For in the trial of their patience and chastening of their spirit and bearing fatherly correction, they are rather benefited than injured. No one can have any power against them but what is given him from above. For there is no power but of God, Romans 13:1, who either orders or permits. Since therefore a righteous man serving it may be under an ungodly king, may do so belonging to his position in the state in fighting by the order of his sovereign. For in some cases it is plainly the will of God that he should fight, and in others where there is not so plain, it may be an unrighteous command on the part of the king, while the soldier is innocent because his position makes obedience a duty. How much more must the man be blameless who carries on a war on the authority of God, of whom everyone who serves him knows that he can never require what is wrong. Augustine of Hippo laid it out very simply, but I'd also like to even go to a pagan, Hammurabi. Let's go to Hammurabi's code for just a second. Next cut, Mr. Producer. This is 31 in the prologue from Hammurabi's Law, Code 31. This is speaking about the laws for soldiers. If for only 1 year, if for only 1 year only, he has let things go to waste behind him, the soldier, and he has returned, his field, garden, and house shall be given him, and he himself should carry on his duty. Number 35, if a man has bought from a levy master the sheep or oxen which the king gave him, he shall lose his money. That means that the officer, the gift from the king, will always stay with the officer. That is permanently given. The field, garden, or house of a levy master, warrant officer, or tributary shall not be sold out from underneath him. That's what that means. So even Hammurabi's code, the king was told, you must provide for your soldiers. When they're gone, if they go and their field is unkept and someone takes care of their field for only up to a year it was, that field must be returned. If the king gives a soldier livestock, gifts, that is inalienable to the soldier. If they carry that further, it's not even something that they would have had to think about. If another country sues the soldier for something that the king said to do, like
that's crazy.
That's crazy. That's not even in Hammurabi's like mindset. That's not even a question.
Do you understand how many false accusations? I mean, that's
insane.
Just
it's not viable.
No.
But the abuse of it, if this is allowed to proceed,
it will continue.
It will exponentially continue. It will grow.
Yeah. Yeah, it will absolutely continue. So all of that to say, this is insane. This suicidal empathy. And a friend of mine was texting me something, and I can't remember what it was. It was on the death penalty, where this guy got 2 life sentences for raping and killing children. And in California, they were letting him back out for
that's
7
unreal.
years. 7 years. 7 years.
Unreal.
7 years. And they every 7 years they go back and they come to it. And I remember the words. I think it's Adam Smith. It's not forgiveness. It was. I'll say it this way. I'm going to butcher the quote. Forgiveness, unjust forgiveness of the guilty is cruelty to the innocent.
Yes.
And Adam Smith said something to that effect. That is what we are doing. We are committing cruelty to the innocent and to the just to give forgiveness and kindness to people who do not deserve it.
Yep.
And we really need to rethink about that suicidal empathy. That is the effeminization. There you go.
Man, you are good.
Effeminization of our culture. And I'm not talking about the feminizing. I'm talking about the effeminizing, specifically saying women are no longer given to their role, but they are giving no responsibilities, and men are expected to be women. Okay. That culture breeds the kind of teachers that we see who are shooting up schools, shooting up White House correspondence dinners, who are just absolutely joyful when Charlie Kirk gets murdered. That group of people is born forth from this sinful, horrible, debauched behavior, and it leads nowhere good. Now, what does that mean for us? We're great at smelling rotten eggs, but can we lay a good one? The short answer is it needs to start with you and your family, and you need to start being involved with lefties. You need to find a way to influence these people with love. They need to see what a real family dynamic is. They need to see Christ. And that's the only way that it's going to change. Some of these people, they're a danger to you. I'm not talking about those. But the ones who aren't, and those who are on the fence, we need to start living righteous lives. We need to start living righteous lives in America, because if we don't, there's no example for them to draw from, and they sure don't have a good father figure. Let's make sure that we give them one. So moving on to something a little bit lighter, we're going to get into some history.
Oh, we are.
250 years worth, although not in this segment.
Not in this segment.
Mr. Charlie, are those years right this time?
Yes, those are the correct years. Absolutely.
You're mean.
Ryan, I am on a roll. I'm 2 weeks in a row.
Where's the marker? I need to give you a marker.
We should put it on the wall in back of us. Maybe a little whiteboard.
I think
set that up
in a row.
2 weeks in a row. I've gotten the years.
Right.
Yeah.
That is, yeah.
Pound it right here.
Yeah.
Right
Go ahead and let's look what we're going to go to slide 1. Let's look at what we're going to talk about today. So we have steel strikes and a rising superpower. We're going to talk about from 1866. That is not right.
Oh,
1900. We're going from 1866.
See,
to
I didn't get it right.
Okay, I'm going to
take it back. Take it back.
I resucked that fist bump right back out of the ether.
Okay, so our first.
I'm not putting them on anymore. They are coming off. You can announce it. I'm not doing it.
So does anybody here on the panel know what the Haymarket Affair was?
Ooh, I've heard of
the Haymarket Affair.
I would like to
go ahead and put that in.
Somebody had a role in the wagon.
No, so during what we're going to talk about is
wagon.
Remember when we talked about the Chicago fire?
Yes.
Last week.
Okay, we talked about it became an industrial city afterwards, and that's where we are here at the Haymarket Affair. 15 years after the fire, the factories were busy day and night. I mean, the industrial revolution is starting.
It's moving.
It's moving. But these workers are working 10 and 12-hour days, and they're working 6 days a week. And they started to say, we want... No, Haymarket is...
Okay. I was just wondering.
And they started to say that they wanted an 8-hour workday. Now, I think that's reasonable. All of us, today we have an 8-hour workday. Mm-hmm. And if you work overtime, you usually get paid unless you're salary, and then you have PTO, things like that. But anyway, so they did a protest, and there were thousands that were protesting across the country. But at the Haymarket place, they were having a protest, and somebody threw a bomb at the police. And that gunfire started to erupt, and people died, and it turned deadly, of course. Shocked the nation. But here's something really interesting. The bomber...
Tuesday night.
Huh?
Today is just a Tuesday night, but keep going.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the bomber was never identified. But you know what they did? They went after the leaders of the protests. Now, let's just take a moment here. If I believe in peaceful protest, I don't believe in violence at all, and I don't believe anybody else does either. But the leaders of the protests were considered to be conspiracists, and they were prosecuted, and some of them were executed.
I like it. If you're throwing bombs at cops.
But listen, but if one person came to disrupt.
I know.
Like, the abortion clinics, you have one person that goes in and throws a bomb. That doesn't mean everybody who's protesting against abortion.
You have to prove that
Yes.
incitement to violence was present. I agree with you 100%.
So I do believe in the protest, and what they were protesting again was right. I'm I'm a little sketchy on the prosecution. I think you needed to make sure that they were behind the violence before you prosecute them and execute them. But let's move on to something a little bit lighter. How about the Statue of Liberty? Has anybody here been to the Statue of Liberty?
I have been by it. I have not been at it.
Has anybody else seen it? Have you been to New York City?
No, I have never been.
Well, my mom went
Flew through one time.
Okay. My mom went to the Statue of Liberty on her senior trip. And do you know you can walk up into the Statue of Liberty to the top back in 65. And what she was telling us that, they were going up and it gets narrow as you get toward the top. And she said it was so sad because this lady was very heavy and they all had to back down because she could go no further to the top of it. Now, today, I think you can still do that, but you have to get a ticket and it's like 4 to 6 months in advance to go to the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, probably a full background check.
That could be.
That could be. But we got the Statue of Liberty from France as a celebration of our 100-year independence and our friendship with France. Could we remember that today, people over there?
Yeah.
And they sent it to us, the Statue of Liberty, in a ship. It was deconstructed and then reconstructed here in America. And it is a picture of hope. So when the immigrants were coming into America, where were they? Ellis Island, right?
Yep.
Where the Statue of Liberty was. And it was a symbol of hope, a symbol of independence for America. So that was our Statue of Liberty. Going on, let's go do the next thing. Remember, we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of America. This is one of the ugly things. Yes, the Dawes Acts of 1887. We learned that the Indians were forced onto reservations. Well, the Dawes Act took that tribal land and they divided it into plots, and they were trying to tell the Indians this was easier for you for farming and stuff, but in actuality, they sold it to a lot of the settlers that were moving west. And if you looked at that picture, you can see what the Indians owned before the Dawes Act and what they owned afterwards. And there was quite a difference. And I do want to say this. Do you really think that the Indians would still have their land? Everybody says that they
would have sold it.
Well,
if we had not institutionalized it in the form of reservations, they would have sold it and just homogenized normally.
I think you're right.
I think the reservations are one of the worst mistakes we ever made. I think we should have let them keep their land, and we should have purchased and traded, and it would have happened naturally.
Yes.
And it should have done. There would have been a lack of intergenerational poverty. But anyway.
Well, I do. I agree with it. Charlie and I were talking about this earlier. Number one, they said that this really hurt their culture, hurt their tribal leadership.
Correct.
But I think their culture was unsustainable. You cannot keep the culture in which they had with being surrounded by modern progress, because the younger generations, they're going to be attracted to
the new
cities. And so even though I think this is a very sad thing, I think when you hear people say we stole the Indians' land, we did it, there was a lot of misdeeds with the Indians. I just don't see that the Indians would have ever kept their land if not.
It was a both. I hate saying both sides, but both sides definitely broke treaties and made violations. There's a lot of distrust.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't have gone down that way. There's no excusing how it went down, but also it was a different era and bad things were done, both sides.
All right, here's another question for you. This gentleman was born in Scotland to a poor family. He immigrated to America and built the steel empire. Who are we talking about?
One and only. Andrew Carnegie.
There you go. Yes. He transformed the building of bridges, railroads, and skyscrapers throughout cities. Charlie and I, we discussed this before I come on here. Most of the time, the bridges were built with wood, stone, or cast iron, and cast iron is brittle.
Yep.
And wood is going to
degrade.
Yep. Now, stone was a reliable source as far as the strength, but it was really hard to build bridges out of stone. It was complicated. It was costly. So when he introduced the steel to building bridges and things, it was revolutionary. It was revolutionary. When he died, he was one of the richest men alive. Now, listen to this. But he gave away much of his fortune. He funded libraries, schools, and public institutions. However, that sounds wonderful, but the road to that fortune was not peaceful. Let's go on to the next. Did we bring up the slide of Andrew Carnegie? Yeah, go up and bring that up.
Nope.
It's number 30. Cut 30, please.
You know what?
There we go.
There we are. So Andrew Carnegie, and the one picture is one of his major steel plants. But in his time, we have what's called the Homestead Strike. Go ahead and pull that one up. At his Homestead steel plant in Pennsylvania, they had to give a pay cut to workers. Well, that's really hard to do. And the protest began. Now, I also want you to know that they were introducing unions at this time. And if you do not know the history of some of these factories, there were dangerous conditions. Men were injured, men were killed. They asked them to work ridiculous hours. I don't think that they were really treated very well, as a matter of fact, at this point. But they went on strike. And so what Carnegie did was he brought in what they call strike breakers to do the work. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the workers, they did a blockade and prevented them from coming in. So then they hired the Pinkerton guards, and that turned violent, and men died. And it was actually, I think Carnegie won that one because it did weaken the unions. Now, let me just ask you something here. And this is what Carnegie died, a very rich and wealthy man. Wealth that he could not take with him to the grave. Don't you think that he could have readjusted the way he looked at the workers?
Yeah.
I mean, why you got more money than you need? Why not slow down on the profitability and create better conditions, better pay?
Because justice and mercy are a new thing. And they were brought by someone named Jesus Christ. Despite how much the Jews want to behead him or crucify him or anything else they want to do, Jesus Christ is going to reign. And thankfully, we can see the benefit of that. But Andrew Carnegie and his ilk, they don't understand the purpose for riches.
I know.
I would agree. And that goes the same for the Elon Musk. The Elon Musk, the Jeff Bezos, those kinds.
I think I would put Musk and Bezos in different holes because Musk generally improves the companies that he goes to.
Oh, and
Bezos
Bezos
is notorious for the way that he pays and runs his Amazon warehouses. Musk is not perfect. Noted. But Bezos has people peeing in 2-liter bottles unless they get written up.
That's where I was really.
And so there is a difference. There is a way to being rich is not bad.
Yeah.
No, there's nothing wrong with being rich and being profitable.
I have every desire someday to leave intergenerational wealth that I cannot take with me to my children. The difference is, did you steal from the fatherless and from the poor and from the workman his wages, as in James 5? And James 5 goes like, don't withhold workers their wages because their cries are heard by God.
Yeah, yes. I would say in this situation, the unions, when the unions started, it was a really good idea. Unions have gotten greedy. Unions have gotten greedy where they will ruin a company and take them right out of business. But the idea... Yeah, the idea of unions was really good. So you can have a greedy owner who wants all the money and not give any thought to his workers, and then you can have unions who are greedy, and kill a company in profitability. So you got to, human nature.
And let me clarify one thing on Elon Musk. I've got a relative that works for SpaceX, and he is treated really well.
That's what I've heard.
He's paid well, and he's treated well.
I've had people tell me and try to hook me up with Tesla here in Texas. Mm-hmm. And in truth, if I wasn't trying to build my own company, I would have considered moving out because I've heard really good things about their incentive structure.
Yes.
So just saying there is a right way and a wrong way to do it.
Yeah. And you want to be remembered. I mean, when people think of Andrew Carnegie, I think of somebody who's really greedy.
Yeah, he's known for that.
Yeah, that's what I think of.
And let me pick up on Tim Mull's comment there, because I think that's really important to pull out. Children were employed and worked to death at times too.
Yes.
That was part of the reason behind the movie The Newsies. As a matter of fact, probably one of the best musicals. It is. It's a great movie, and it brings to light a lot of issues. I'm not saying it was portrayed accurately. It was done in a very broad way, but I think it nailed accurately what the major issues were.
There's a purpose. There's a purpose for unions when they step outside of their purpose in collective bargaining and they go into the political. That's when they're going to see political pressure.
Yes.
And what they should do is they should step back into collective bargaining for the worker instead of communism.
A lot.
I was just working a show. I said this a couple weeks ago. I was working a show where there was a big union. It was all political. It was all communist talk. They were speaking in the form of brother. And at first I was like, brother in Christ. Okay, fine. And then I listened more and it's like, no. My brother, the worker, my brother is very much a communist spin. When you do that, you've now left your purpose. So there was original good purpose, I think.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
All right. Let's go on to the next one. And we have here the Panic of 1893. Now, isn't it funny that we have already talked about a couple of these situations that have happened previously? So this was the worst economic depression the U.S. had ever experienced at this time. The railroads failed, banks closed, businesses shut down, millions lost their jobs. Now, what I asked was what caused this? And it goes to the railroads' overexpansion and debt. Their profitability could not keep up with their debt. And so I told Charlie, I said, wouldn't it have been better to slow down? And he said, well, people look at, if I take this great risk, I have great reward. But look what happened. So when they filed, the Philadelphia and Reading Railroad filed bankruptcy, it caused a massive sell-off at Wall Street, which caused banks to fail and business to close up and people to become unemployed. Now, have you ever heard of Coxey's Army?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so I haven't either.
It's a new one.
Yeah, in 1894, Coxey's Army was a group of people that marched to Washington, and get this, demanding government job programs.
Huh.
So what they were asking the government to do was to improve the road systems by hiring these unemployed men to build better roads and get paid by the government. Okay, we have opinions about that, don't we?
Yeah.
We really do. It was one of the first large protest marches on the Capitol. I'm not sure what I think about government involvement in these type of things.
It usually ultimately ends up slowing things down. So there will be people who complain about the private road construction company. Your complaints are noted and reform is needed.
Yeah.
The worst version of that is one entirely without accountability, i.e. the U.S. government, a small bureaucratic branch, because you can't fire them. Whereas with our current private road system, what'll happen is people will spend all this money, a municipality will spend all this money on a local construction company that often is the brother-in-law or some such connection. The good thing is they're still at least held accountable to some extent, whereas a bureaucratic system, like imagine the U.S. Post Office building our roads. Oh my gosh, it just would not work, right? So there's always going to be corruption. The question mark is do you want there to be a remedy? And when they do it like this, someone did the macroeconomics on the Great New Deal.
Mm-hmm.
It put us back several years on the recovery out of the Great Depression.
My son will tell you that a lot of times when these depressions happen, he said if you would just leave things along,
let them fail.
But he says what you will see great men rise up out of adversity and do great things.
And wealth is redistributed. We almost had another 2008 pop. And Daniel was talking about this earlier, a friend of ours, about how the bubble for housing should have popped a long time ago. Well, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street were allowed to purchase all these homes, and they were bailed out when they overextended. Liz Warren says, hey, they're too big to fail. Well, if you'd allowed it to pop, then small investors, people like folks in this room, could have bought those houses at a discount and then reaped that wealth. A family that makes $80,000 a year could have had enough money to put a down payment on a second rental house.
And it's into the
Instead, a quarter of the houses in America are owned by private equity.
Yes, which is making it hard for the common man.
Yeah. Well, and that's going to eventually lead to a problem.
Correct.
Which actually, we're talking about the common man. Let's move on to this person. The next one, please. William Jennings Bryan. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but in 1896, he was a speaker that, quote unquote, electrified the nation. He did a famous speech called the Cross of Gold. Now, his desire was to get away from the gold standard and have free coinage of silver to inflate the currency and help farmers get out of debt. I don't know anything about that part of it, but it's very interesting. I wonder if it would have worked.
Well, you would have had much more volume of precious metal. There is a lot of gold still to be mined.
You can still prospect, by the way. If you wanted to go claim right now, you could go claim like Utah or a couple of other places.
But with respect to silver, I think in this last few months being a great illustration of that, we saw silver get up to, what was it, close to 150? Now it tanked, but I'm hearing rumblings from different people that it will hit at least 300 within the next few years. And I would not be surprised by that. All of that to say this.
It's worth $1,000.
Right.
Because back in, just a quick anecdote about the family to prove your point. Back at this time, my great-great-great-grandfather would buy, there's a Fiala tradition. You would buy at 21 years old, 18 or 21, you would buy the nicest suit you could get a hold of for your son. And it was a $20 gold piece, or silver piece rather. And that over and over and over again, they would give that. But then after the 20s or 30s, somewhere in there, that Fiala, Harvey, my grandfather, it costed significantly more.
Sure.
And then my father, it costed significantly more. When I got my suit, it was about $800.
Wow.
And it still was not the equivalent value.
Right.
So there's a Fiala family tradition that you do that, and it was based on the silver dollar. Anyway.
See, I just wonder if some of this stuff had happened, if it would have changed the course. I've always been upset over the fact that a farmer can't make it. Farmers should be able to make it. Farmers should be the backbone of our country. That's how I feel.
Amen.
So Mr. Bryan ran for president, I think 3 times, but he did not make it. But he is known to be a voice for the average American wanting change. That's what he's known for.
You know, what's really interesting about him is that he sounds like today's liberal progressive. And yet, with one exception, he was looking out for the farmer. I find that really interesting. Yeah. Very interesting.
Well, the typical today progressive will tell you that he's looking out for the little guy too, but
yeah, we know the truth.
Yeah, his ideas don't usually.
Elizabeth, you're not looking for us.
Okay, we're moving on to the next one, and that is the Spanish-American War of 1898. Now we're going to look at something really interesting here. American businesses had invested in Cuba. Now, the Spanish-American War was all about what was going on in Cuba. They had invested $50 million in Cuba for the sugar, tobacco, and iron. Now, the reason we went to war is that they said Cuba wanted their independence from Spain, and Spain was pretty brutal in trying to put that down. They had concentration camps. There was lack of food, sanitation issues. There was a lot of death. Now, here's something that was interesting brought up called yellow journalism. If you don't know, Pulitzer and Hearst had the largest newspapers, I believe, in New York City. And one of them said I control what the city thinks. I control who the city votes for. I have that control. Yellow journalism means that they use sensationalized material and is often exaggerated. Can you relate to today? I mean, is there any difference? This swayed the American public to support the Spanish-American War. Now, I will tell you, we defeated Spain very quickly. It's amazing how well we do at war.
Mm-hmm.
I would say there's a God blessing on that.
Think so.
I'm going to say that. After this war, we gained Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. It also increased our influence in Cuba. However, it also was a turning point for the United States because no longer were we superior in North America, but now we were expanding and becoming a world power. And this is where a lot of other countries started seeing us as a world power. Okay, our next one. Oh, that's not the right one.
Oh.
It's okay. Maybe I don't have it in there. It's okay.
You got the Open Door Policy, 1899.
Well, let me go to this one first. Anybody heard of the Rough Riders?
Yep.
Okay.
San Juan Hill.
Who became the hero of the Rough Riders? Who is the person that came out?
Big old Teddy.
Teddy Roosevelt. So that's part of this where he starts becoming a national hero after that war and that situation. We're going to learn more about him in the future, but I just want to touch on that quickly. And then the open door policy that you already showed. Interesting. So interesting. 1899, the United States wanted access to trade in China. This blew my mind. So John Hay is going to write to Great Britain, Germany, France, Italy, and Japan, and Russia. And he's telling them that we have the right to trade freely with China, to keep existing tariffs, to pay equal port railroad fees without discrimination. They were afraid that these other countries would discriminate against America and we would lose the ability to trade with China in that valuable market that they had. They did not write back approvals, but they were very evasive. He took this as an approval. I said to Charlie, I said, isn't it interesting? It's like you take this little puppy, it turns into a big dog that bites you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So trade with China starts back in 1899. It's still a big deal for us today.
Well, we wanted trade with China because of the silk. And that was a whole entire, and spice, silk and spice.
Yeah.
And that was the whole thrust of the New World. And we finally got our alliance and trade set up with them. We actually helped them out very bigly, very greatly. World War II,
Yes.
we helped them. And how do they treat us? They've absolutely turned their back on us. But that was after a communist revolution. China likes to pretend that it's been the same country for thousands of years. They have not. They've been under multiple government. I think in the last century, it's 5 reconstructions of their government.
And interesting. You want share the last one here. Our closing summary here.
I can't go shoot me a buffalo.
Nope. That's it.
Get it?
Wrong one.
That's all we got.
Yes,
I guess you
All
missed
she
that
wrote.
one. So anyway, there we are from 1886 to the 1900. We're going through another transformation. Same kind of really history repeats itself
Over and over again.
over and over and over again. But there you go.
That's it. Now you can shoot you some buffalo, Mr. Producer.
There we go.
I can't go shoot me a buffalo.
Nope.
Stay out of my garbage can. I'll keep it to myself.
Man, we're going hunting with the kids.
We're going hunting with kids today. And if you've never done it, I'll tell you what, it can be frustrating and it can be some of the best times of your life.
It's like fishing on steroids as far as keeping them from fidgeting, right?
Probably a little more than that.
I've got grandsons that I'm like,
I don't know if you want to take him
be
hunting.
good.
One at a time to start, I think, is wisdom.
Totally.
Man, I've I tell you
Would you
what,
agree
I
with that, Steve?
have heard all kinds of stories on how to keep kids still.
Would you agree with that? One at a time to start with,
One at a time.
if you're breaking them in the first time.
Yes, I would agree that you take one at a time.
I think that's
no
wise.
multiples, that's for sure, unless you have them broke in and trained already. Other than that, one at a time.
So where's a good place to take a kid hunting?
Well, first off, when you get ready, you want to have a place to go. That's for sure. Now, and you want to have those places picked out prior to going. So you got places like National Forest, and then you've also got places that are hunting leases where you can hunt wild boar, like this spot that you're seeing here. This right here is a place that I had set up for hunting wild boar. Oh my goodness, I can't tell you how many wild boar were shot off of this spot right here just with my bow. I can't even count. I don't even have a clue how many.
So they were pretty thick in there.
Oh, this deer lease right here was on the San